Hi folks, it's Andy. Welcome to this week's Kendo Rant. Okay, we've got fantastic questions for you today, a good number of them too, so we'll jump into them in just a moment. Don't forget to do all the YouTube stuff, you know what all that is by now. The most important one of those things though is after you've hit the subscribe button is the little bell. You need to ring the Kendo bell if you want to get better at Kendo. Scientific fact, you need to do it. All right, give it a try. And even more important than that, if you like the videos that I put out, if you like these weekly Kendo rants and the instructional stuff, I have got more of that on the way. I know I keep saying that every week, but it is coming, I promise you. All right, we've got fantastic Kendo instructional videos coming very, very soon. I've already filmed them. They're just sort of in the editing process right now. We've got you know, more analysis videos, stuff like that coming as well. So support us by shopping at KendoStar.com. That's my website, of course. It sells amazing, fantastic, wonderful, brilliant Kendo equipment. Of course, I would say that, you know, but being the owner of the place. But if you don't believe me, then you can check out our Trustpilot rating with one of the highest rated e-commerce stores on Trustpilot. Not just Kendo stores, like e-commerce stores. So, you know, and we kind of do knock the other Kendo stores out of the park, frankly. Ask some of your dojo mates if you don't believe me. I'm sure there's some of them that are using our equipment and have been very happy with the stuff that we provide and the service that we give as well. So with all that said, let's get into these questions. So first one, I'm interested in hand speed and or wrist flexibility as part of tenuji. My understanding is the speed of the kensaki is determined by the last movement of the hands rather than the large muscles in the back shoulders. If you have more flexibility and speed in the hands, would it not help strike quicker? If so, how can one develop that speed? So that's a fantastic question. You're absolutely correct. Your strike, you have to make a powerful strike, but it's not got to come from your sort of muscles. You do use the muscles in your back and shoulders to swing the shinai, but it really is all about that wrist movement here. Like you say, this part, can you see that? This bit here. You've got to be flexible in the wrists, like that. Men, kote, men, like that. Yeah? That's really, really important. So, you can develop that in a few ways. You need strength in your wrists and flexibility in your wrists. So one thing you can do is like a type of suburi, where instead of just swinging up and down this way, from your sort of main strike position, I'm not sure if I've got enough room to show you properly here, from your main strike position, instead of lifting up this way, keep your hands out in front, and you can turn your wrists this way. You can do it the other way. I'm going to bash my computer if I do that, but like this, and do it on the other side as well. I don't know if you can see, but this way as well. This way and this way. Okay? This type of suburi will definitely help you do that. Try and do it. Try to keep your hands closed. At first, you know, whilst you're building flexibility, you might need to open your fingers a little bit, but as much as possible, try to keep your hands closed around the shin. I don't have a massive amount of space to show you properly, but this kind of movement will definitely help you develop that, and then you can make your strikes better with more sharpness, more crispness, and more power, because you'll be moving the kensen faster when you do those kote or men strikes. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. Okay, next one. This is a little bit of a longer one. How do I find a fitting kendogi as an overweight kendoka? I'm a size 3.5 by height, but other dimensions lean to a size 5, which means either wearing something way too small for my build or buying the biggest one and altering the length of the sleeves, which is what I usually do anyway. But maybe there's some advice on it that I haven't considered. Unfortunately, there isn't a massive amount you can do. Obviously, everyone's different size, shape, height, build, and all that sort of thing. And there's only a limited selection of sizes that we're obviously able to offer as suppliers to keep prices realistic and obviously to deal with sort of stock management. Obviously, it'd be nice for us to be able to offer a massive amount of different sizes. But, you know, if we're talking about off-the-shelf Kendogi, then there's obviously a limit to that. The best bet is, like you say, buy the sort of bigger size and shorten up the sleeves. What you can do, though, is you can get in touch with us and we can sort of make a Kendogi to order for you that would be more suitable for your measurements. Usually it doesn't cost much more. If anything more, depends what needs to happen. You know, we can arrange it for you. Just the only thing is it takes time because we've got to get it made to order. So if you're not in a desperate rush for it, it's definitely something that we can help with. So as for your second question, as a club armourer, I'm moving things around here on Word. As a club armourer, I handle quite a few Borga sets that were hand-me-downs or donations. And short of someone really trying all of them on, it's really difficult to find a good fit. And that is mainly true for the men as much as they are personalised to each person's measurements. I'm hoping to put the Borga we have to good use, so even if it's to tell members that we have a Borga for fitting certain measurements will be good of good use and give people a taste of Borga practice, which will hopefully lead to them eventually buying their properly fitted set. In short, using KendoStar's measuring guide, how to find A, B, and C for the men and D and E for the kote. I'm hoping there's a way I can tell club members we have Borga that fits, that will fit such and such measurements. So measure yourselves, and if the Borga will fit you, we'll bring it for the next keiko. I know it's a bit much to expect a perfect fit from a second-hand Borga, but at least approximate measurements will help a lot. So this is always the problem when you're talking about second-hand or used Borga. There isn't really a great accurate way to to sort of measure the Borga to find out what the appropriate A, B, and C, D, and E measurements are. It doesn't really work like that. So I've had people try to tell me that, oh, I've got a men that's sort of size whatever, and because I've measured around the inside, and it's not really how it works. So you know, there isn't really a way to do that. The only way you can do it is get people to try them on, and if you find someone that fits, measure that person. Is probably the easiest way. Yeah, so if you've got a few sets, get one of your beginners or somebody or yourself, ask them to try it on, see how it fits. If it fits well, then you can measure them, and then you'll have an idea of what size that Borga is. That's the easiest and quickest way of doing it, I think, if that makes sense. I know it's a bit of a nightmare because you'll have to try and get everybody, but you know, I definitely think that's the easiest way. Next one. Good morning, Andy. I hope you're well. Yes, thank you. I was wondering if it is a common problem for the skidare to occasionally get caught on the top of the door. I see that some other kendoka have a slightly bent skidare. Is it acceptable to slightly bend the skidare to avoid it getting caught on the top of the door? I'll also be attending my first grading next month. Do I have any helpful tips I can keep in mind for my IQ examination? Thanks. Great. So, yeah, it's a common problem for people that are new to kendo like yourself. All right. First off, don't bend your skidare. Okay, you don't need to do that. You're at risk of breaking it. Okay, so don't do that. All right, you don't need to do that. You're either wearing the door too high, which is a common problem. You're either wearing the door too high, or when you've got your Borga on, your kamae is wrong. And this is often the case as well. So what beginners tend to do, if I can move sideways, is instead of making their kamae this way, I don't know if you can see, they make the kamae this way, like this, and of course this makes the ago, the skidare, hit the mune, the top of the door. All right, so it could be a combination of both. Right, so you need to stand up straight, like someone's measuring how tall you are when you're in your kamae. Okay, not this way. Yeah, and you need to make sure that when you put on the door, it's not too high. Okay, but don't start bending it. All right, I don't want you to break it. I know you've seen people with bent ones and stuff like that, but don't do that. You might break it, and then that's not good. It won't protect you properly. About your grading, helpful tips for IQ. Yeah, you need to be able to do men with fumikomi and roughly all at the same time. That's it. If you do that, you'll pass. All right, I'm sure. Okay. Nothing else. It's not too complicated. All right, you don't need to have specific techniques or anything like that. You just need to be able to leap forward with fumikomi and kentai no ichi. All right, make a strike that looks like a kendo strike. Okay, not this kind of sort of strike. All right. Next one, for individuals that are medically unable to perform Sonkyo, I'm aware that there are modifications to the Reiho between practitioners, but are there any IKF or ZNKR agreed modifications to the Reiho at the beginning and end of practice for those Kendoka who are unable to kneel in Seiza? No, there are no such things. Frankly, in Japan, that sort of thing is exceptionally rare. Most people, even very, very elderly people with medical problems, are generally able to do Sonkyo and are generally able to do Seiza as well. Obviously, that's a big cultural difference. So for that reason, there just hasn't been an official recognized way. The best thing to do is talk with your sensei, your teacher, your dojo leader, see what they're happy with you doing, and follow their advice. If you go to an event like a seminar or something like that, same thing goes. You could probably, like at most seminars, especially like in the West, the teachers are quite accessible. So there shouldn't be a big problem for you to talk to whoever's the lead teacher of the seminar, or get your teacher to do that, and just mention to them, look, I'm not really able to kneel down in Seiza, and see what alternatives they'd have you do. If there's some way that you can do it without doing it as just standing up, that's the best. Like if you could sit in a chair or something, even is probably better than doing it standing. So if there's a way you can do it from whilst avoiding doing it whilst fully stood up, that's the best. But if it's unavoidable, then that's fine as well. Okay, it can't be helped. Hi Andy, I hope you're well. Seme is currently one of the main things I'm struggling with right now. I find myself stepping in and attacking because I want to, rather than controlling the flow of the situation and being intelligent about my waza. I know I'm only first Q and that Seme is ultimately very advanced stuff, but I'm trying to learn and I'm very aware of Seme as a factor to consider. My questions are, what different kinds of effective Seme exist and what are they effective against, and also what are the common mistakes someone does when they do poor Seme? Okay, right. Right, okay. You don't need to focus too much on it, all right? I know that isn't the answer you want. I know it's not really answering the questions that you want, but, and I understand what you're saying, right? You know that Seme is advanced stuff and you want to start learning it early. It doesn't work like that, all right? Seme is the culmination of your experience, okay? In a nutshell, it's the culmination of your experience. So you cannot have Seme without experience, yeah? That's why these like old Hachidan, like 80-odd-year-old guys can still really affect the Kendo of like 20-year-old, 30-year-olds, youngsters. Because your Seme, the foundation of your Seme is your experience. Your Seme becomes stronger. Your ability to because Seme is just your ability to affect your opponent, all right? And your ability to do that it comes from your experience in Kendo. When with this sort of person, and this is over many years of repeating Kendo with lots of different people. Okay, this sort of person, based on my experience, and of course you don't go through this thought process; it happens naturally. Because you got so much experience, you can see it when it happens. But for example, if I was to break it down, okay, right, when I approach this person in this way, they have the tendency to do this way. That means that this X outcome is likely. So then I can start to make a strategy for how I'm going to affect their Kendo in order to perform the waza that I want to perform. At Ikkyu, you've got no chance of that happening, all right? It's just not there. You don't have the hours in the dojo to get that, all right? So I'm not trying to dismiss you here, right? But what you need to do is you need to work on building that experience rather than which will lead to the result of being able to apply Seme, rather than focus on the result of trying to apply Seme, because you don't have that foundation there yet, all right? So don't worry about what different types of Seme there are. What do you do if your Seme doesn't work? That's like an hour-long conversation, and there's so many different avenues that can go down, because it's such a case-by-case thing. It's really different for each person. There's all sorts of different things, and there's all sorts of ones that I haven't discovered yet as well. I don't want you to think about that. Look, think about doing your shikake waza. Think about your kikentai no ichi and do your best to make the best yuko datotsu that you can. Once you're able to make like absolute fire yuko datotsu, right, then you're going to start to see effective seme happen from your kendo automatically, all right, because you're going to start to exude a presence that, you know, your kendo is amounting to something. That's going to automatically lead to seme. And then you're going to start to add that to your experience. You're going to start to figure out what happens when you apply different strategies, what happens when you apply different approaches, what happens when you move your shinai this way, what happens when the opponent steps forward this way or steps back that way. You're going to start to figure that out as you build up experience and more experience, whilst at the same time polishing and polishing and polishing and polishing and polishing the quality of your yuko datotsu. Okay? And that's how you're going to learn to do seme. And it's going to take you years and years. All right? So get to work. Right, next one. Hi, Andy. What do you think about kendo styles? Are they different, evolve according to level and grading, or do they remain the same but with increased level of technical ability? No, they definitely change and evolve according to level and grading. I don't do the same sort of kendo that I did when I was 20, thank God, because my kendo was rubbish in those days. You know, the difference is, of course, I don't have the body that I had then. So, you know, I'd love to have the kind of technical and kind of mental kendo that I've got now, and the body that I had sort of, let's say, what should we say, 15 years ago? That'd be awesome. So yeah, it definitely changes, all right? Because as I just mentioned from the previous question, you start to understand as you it's not just technical ability. In fact, your technical ability hits a certain point and then it starts to sort of peak, and then it depends what you call technical ability, but let's say physical technical ability. Of course, it's going to decrease at some point as your body starts to deteriorate. You're not going to be able to do the same sort of speedy, sharp, beautiful kotewaza, you know, in your 70s and 80s that somebody in their sort of 20s and 30s might be able to do. But you've developed a deeper level of kendo at that stage is the idea. So of course the style of your kendo changes. You might not be able to be a super aggressive, not rely a lot on, but what do you say? Like use a lot of renzoku waza, multiple strikes. You might instead start to develop a style where you use hikidachi, where you get your opponent to strike you, and you can do the debano waza or oji waza. And these sort of things. So definitely the style of your kendo, an individual's kendo, changes over the years as they increase their ability, as their level goes up, and of course as they start to achieve higher grades. Okay. Next one. Hi Andy, the black of my Menbuchi is starting to wear away. With previous men bought from other establishments, I've touched up the the Menbuchi with black nail polish. Is this okay to use, or would you recommend something else? Can you also recommend anything for refurbishing the bits of Borgu where the dye is faded or rubbed to a lighter colour also? Thanks. Okay, so first off, look, the Menbuchi wears away. All right, and it's impossible. I've had this conversation a lot now, and I'm going to do a separate video about it, I think. And I'll do a video sort of talking about how you can repair it yourself, because it's not too hard. The Menbuchi wears away, all right? It's painted on there, and then someone whacks it with a shinai, or you start abrasing himo against it. And it's impossible. It's on natural raw hide underneath, which has been soaked and then dried, and then it's got natural oils in it as well. So it's impossible to tell how long the paint on a Menbuchi is gonna last. It's impossible. I've literally seen Borgu, hand stitched Borgu, top class Borgu that's cost thousands, you know, with the Menbuchi start to chip off right away before they even use it. As soon as you put the himo on, even. It is unfortunately unavoidable. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it lasts for years. Okay, and it's just unpredictable, and it's something that, and that's why you won't find a burger shop in the world that will guarantee that the Menbuchi won't chip off, right? Because it's just not, it's not possible. Luckily, chipping off doesn't have a major negative effect on it. It's just a little bit of an appearance thing. Usually when it chips off at the start, it usually sheds a little bit and then it stops shedding it. So if you get a brand new Men and it chips some paint off, don't worry about it too much. It's very, very normal. And it will calm down and stop doing it after a while. You can retouch it, like you say. Some people use nail polish, you know, nail varnish, whatever you want to call it. What you can do beforehand is I was talking to one of my colleagues about this, and he had a really good idea of actually colouring it with a marker, like a Sharpie, first before you paint it. Yeah, so don't just paint the leather straight, and don't just colour it in with a marker. Some people in Japan just colour it in with a marker. It looks rubbish. Don't do that. Colour the marker first so it's black underneath, and then paint over it. You can use your nail polish, or the other thing that I've used in the past is like enamel paints for like model aeroplane kits. They're pretty easy to get hold of. There's a brand in the UK called Humbrol, I think. I don't think it's a British brand, so I'm sure you can get it elsewhere. It's enamel based though. You need to use a synthetic brush. Don't use one with natural animal hairs. They're expensive. Use a cheap brush, and you want to use white spirits to wash the brush. It won't wash out in water. Okay, I will do a video about how to do it. It's very, very easy. I've done it several times myself. About sort of these quick repairs you can do on those sort of things in sort of little refurbishments, and what you need to worry about and what you don't need to worry about. You know, when things happen to your burger. I'll do a video about that soon. Okay, but yeah, your black nail polish should be fine. About other parts of the burger where the dye's faded, we can get actual dye to you can re-dye it, but I wouldn't do it until it's quite, you know, faded in lots of places. I wouldn't just do a little bit. You're best redoing the whole thing. Again, I'll do another video on that. We'll get some of the dye in. We might add it as a product if it's not too difficult for us to import from Japan, and I'll do a video about how you do that as well. All right. Next one. Hi Andy, hope you're doing great. Yes, I am. Thank you very much. I have very sweaty hands, mostly when I hold something for a while. This affects my grip. I don't have problems wearing kote, but doing suburi, I feel that it really affects my technique, mostly tenuchi. Do you have any recommendations for this sort of conditions? Not really. If you're doing suburi with a shinai, obviously you've got a leather scarf, so it shouldn't massively affect things. But no. I guess what you could do is you could keep a tenuguri tucked in your kendogi, and then between sets of suburi, you could quickly wipe your hands clean with your tenuguri, dry your hands before you do the next set. That's probably the only real thing that I can probably offer on that front. Next one. I was wondering, in a Shiai, when Gorgi is called or when the opponent player has to fix his Borgu, you're supposed to go into Sonkyo. But I also noticed sometimes people are going into Caesar as well after a short time. So is it correct, / not wrong to go into Caesar when the opponent's taking longer to fix their Borgu? Furthermore, my men daddy curl up like an octopus shape rather than staying like Mount Fuji. I personally don't like it, but is it because of the material of the men daddy? What can I do other than investing in a KendoStar Men next time? Well, I think you've answered that question. No, seriously. So when they call Gorgi, when the Shushin calls Gorgi, he's the only one that should really call Gorgi. Actually, the players separate and they should wait in Sonkyo. If one of the players has to retie their Borgu, sometimes that can take quite a long time. Sometimes players intentionally make it take a long time so that their opponent has to wait in Sonkyo for a long time. That's not a very nice thing to do, but some people do it. Yeah, I've seen people wait in Sonkyo, wait in Caesar. It's not, usually you can get away with doing that. What I tend to do is, I wait in Sonkyo, and if they're taking ages, if my legs start to hurt, I stand up and stretch my legs a little bit, and then I go back into Sonkyo. Usually the Shimpan don't have a problem with that. You know, obviously if they're taking ages, the Shimpan can see that. No one's going to have an issue with you doing that, I don't think. Okay. About the taco men, the octopus men, it's where you're tying it, mate. That's the problem. Obviously the material of the mendai doesn't necessarily help, but it's definitely where you're tying it. You're tying the knot too low on your head. All right, that's the reason that happens. So you must make sure that you tie the knot. Don't tie it at the base of your skull, where your spine joins the skull. That's too low. It needs to be slightly higher than that. Obviously it depends on your body, but it needs to be at the height of your eye. All right. It needs to be like here, right? You get the taco men, the octopus men. You get that from tying it like here. So you're tying it too low, and it'll help when you store it as well. Tie it up when you finish using it. Tie it as if you had it on your head, lined up with the monomi, with the eye level, and then make the Mount Fuji shape and store it like that too. All right. Don't store it with the men that is straight or curled up like that. All right. And that will definitely help. I'm sure it's the way you're tying it though. Hi Andy, I have a lacquered tsuba. It's not my first. I learned the hard way. They're not for keiko when a missed kote strike exploded it across the dojo. It was explained to me that these tsuba are not for sparring. My question is, are they more than artistic objects? Is there a use for them? Many thanks. Yeah, I mean they are. You know, the lacquered tsuba, you'll find we don't really sell them because of that sort of thing. They're not super great for that. You know, the thing is they are really just for artistic objects, aren't they? And if you're like a high level teacher that's not going to get hit much, then probably they're okay then as well. But I wouldn't recommend them for your sort of usual keiko use. You're best with a sort of standard type tsuba. Following on from the previous question, I'd be very interested to know if there's a difference in the type of plastic used in the manufacture of basic tsuba supplied with shinai and those now being sold with decorative patterns. Some time ago, I was practicing with someone who was using one of them decorative tsuba when my poorly directed attempt at a kote resulted in the tsuba ending up in several pieces. So yeah, I know what you mean. You're talking about the basic plastic tsuba and the tsuba with the patterns on. Yeah, they're slightly different type of plastic. I couldn't tell you the sort of in-depth sort of types of plastic and stuff like that. It's not my speciality. But yeah, they probably are a little bit more delicate. Them shattering into different pieces isn't a common problem in Japan. I'll let you figure out why that might be. But yeah, it's not a particularly common problem here, to be honest, but I've never seen it in Japan, and they're very, 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 very popular over there. So, you know, I think there's a combination of stuff that causes that. In terms of durability, yeah, you'll probably find that the standard plastic ones or the leather tsuba are the most durable. Okay, so they tend not to shatter. Last one. Any reflection on those days when one's kendo, to myself and maybe others, looks and feels great, proper, correct, etc., and then you have those days where you look and you're practicing like you can't even spell kendo. You've got to embrace those times, all right? You have those times when the practice is like absolutely not going how you wanted, or you look back at the video and you're sort of not happy with it. And those are really important times. They're the times I find that you tend to be improving the most. Those days when your kendo feels and looks great tend to follow directly those usually a period actually of practices where it's not quite going where you want it to go. It's like a kind of slump. It feels like you're slumping, but actually it's here that you're improving. Yeah, and it doesn't quite feel right while you're doing that. And then you get to that point that you've kind of, you know, you've sort of overcome a hurdle and you actually sort of plateau a little bit whilst you're feeling great. And then something happens and it's not working again, and that's you on the way up again. All right, so embrace them. It's horrible, I know, it doesn't feel great, but it's part of kendo improvement. That's it. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and most importantly, shop at KendoStar.com. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all next week. Bye bye.